All right, folks, it's the first episode of the Hemp Highway right here in Texas, and we have made our first stop on this large tour right here in Austin at Soundshed Studios. And we have an excellent guest here, Jeff Funk
Hello, everybody.
from Organitek Success and Yeti Control. We're going to talk a lot about the opportunity here in Texas, what these vendors are seeing from the outside in, and also a ton of other topics about Jeff's history and upbringing in this industry. So we're going to just dive right in. I'll have you introduce yourself, kind of give your background, and talk about obviously the companies and the nutrients.
Right on. Thank you. Well, first of all, pleasure to be here. So far, it's been red carpet welcome. I love it.
That's how we do it in Texas.
Yeah, it's great. Little about personal history. I was born and raised in Nebraska, but then came to California at 19 when I was first able to kind of make decisions on my own where I wanted to live, and the California scene just really it was easy to shed the Nebraska skin and kind of embrace everything California had to offer, especially in the 90s when I came out there and started growing early indoors in California and evolved through every soil, every medium going through there, and then actually went to Hawaii for a little bit, did a 10-year out there, and really got into the outdoor horticulture and the kind of symbiotic relationship of the earth, and realizing without having to pay for all the inputs, you could use nature at its best, and really got into that, and then came back to Northern California and was in Mendocino for a long time, and then came back to Tahoe, and I'm kind of settled right there again.
Dude, you're like the king of Tahoe from what I hear.
It's I'm Captain Funk
Captain Funk.
is one of my monikers on there. That lake, it's the first time I stumbled upon there. You look at that big blue, and I realized right then there's no place I'd rather be. I need to make it work. And moving there in the 90s, you had to work at the
Yeah.
ski resorts and make it work, but you paid your homage.
That's how I felt about Texas. Something about endless grass and cattle. It just did it for me. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sight.
Corn and cows, maybe that's our correlation for Nebraska getting on there.
I do want you to talk about, your perspective. So you're coming from California, deep roots in that market, Mendocino, Emerald Triangle, you've grown outdoor, you've grown indoor, you've been all over for it. So I kind of want to talk about that and how all that experience was for you. I think you're going to find that Texas is kind of in a similar place as what you may have experienced 10, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And so I think that's going to be really cool to show you across these tours with all these folks we're going to go see. But I do want to talk about, your roots coming up in that Emerald Triangle and how difficult it was, or what did you have to do to cut through?
Well, first of all, everything was kind of behind this veil.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was very, very secretive, very kind of suppressed. You couldn't really be out in the open with that because you would be targeted, and you didn't want that red X on your back. So everything, and then that was kind of cool because then you discovered fellow like-minded people, and you're on the same scene.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of like, if you know, you know. But it came up. Everything was very underground. We didn't have the surveillance then that we do now. So everything up there, especially in Mendo, everyone's hardline landline.
Right.
People would pay like 20 grand for their landline to their place, and driving up, say, like Spy Rock, you think the Strait of Ormuz is tight right now. Like the road to Spy Rock, getting 10, 20 miles back there, you'd have, one gate, two gate, and people, you'd call like, okay, we got a white Ford coming down here, and just so everyone knows. And you
Wow.
couldn't, yeah, people, authorities, outsiders couldn't easily access that without going through 6 locked gates. And it was more traditional there,
Mm-hmm.
and still have a natural palpitation in my heart when I hear helicopters, because that's when at least there's a lot of scrub oak and shade to run under. But a lot of these, you were still just, it was that kind of
Mm-hmm.
fear living on that. But everything, it just wasn't out there like it is now. You're saying in Texas, we were talking earlier, it's so nice, but it's kind of contradictory to the way I was raised to on my sharing of information.
Totally. I feel like sometimes too, I talk to people and I sometimes feel like maybe people don't have that same respect for us out here just because we haven't gone through that of what people remember, but we are going through it right now, we kind of have some of the same protocols. I wouldn't say that we're necessarily weary of necessarily the cops or anyone else, but just still people here will get the wrong impression. Like, we're legal, we're hemp, but
Hmm.
people don't know that. They're like, "Oh, this is a weed grow. It's called the cops." So we've always tried to get ahead of that, but I feel like we have our own struggles here in Texas that are really synonymous with, I think, what you have seen in your experience out west and in the 90s and coming up in that scene.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the two schools of thought. Who's profiting right now? Who's prolific in that? And it's the people who are out and open. And the
Yeah.
last thing I want to be known as is like, well, back in my day, I do have that experience, but I'm not. I don't lead with that.
Yeah.
I don't. I do like having that legacy experience under my belt, but I realize the changes
Mhm.
and where the market is going, and it's fish or cut bait, and you need to be out there ahead of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that too because I really enjoy like the melding of the ways of thinking from OG experience that I can't get to new ways of thinking that maybe the OGs wouldn't have thought about. And that was kind of cool in MJ BizCon last year too was hearing I think people hear my side of things or my story kind of through the airwaves, but to get to meet in person and talk about it, what I want to, what I see for this, I think there's good from both sides, and if we can combine the good from both, we can have a lot more leverage moving forward with how our industry is treated, looked at, and how it advances.
Absolutely, and that starts with like the SOPs. You cannot recreate it just on paper
Yeah,
with SOPs, but given the 3 decades experience that I have, even 4 decades that a lot of the other growers have up there, that you cannot help but learn by that. And when you're young, you can't tell you nothing.
yeah,
That's just kind of how it is. That's your
totally.
20s. But that's the nice thing about some of these legacy growers. And unfortunately, with California's regulation, we had to out everyone's kind of been outsourced now. And those
Yeah,
big growers can no longer find a viable life in California. So that's every state that's kind of getting legalized. They're getting those California growers that have that experience. But
yeah,
that's awesome about that OG legacy is that these guys will show you. They're like, no, that doesn't work. Tried that once,
100%.
and that's not going to work because we tried that, and that's nice because it cuts that learning curve in half, even greater than that.
Yes,
Hmm.
my partner is 50 years old. My master grower is 50.
My
I
man,
just turned 30.
my
There's a
man.
lot of stuff that he knows and I know that we don't, we can cross. And then that's what I think makes it so beneficial
Hmm.
is both sides of that. So I definitely respect that and I love beating the learning curve because if you're not spending time wasting time making mistakes, you're probably making money.
Yep.
So I like to be on that side for sure. Which speaking of making money, want to talk about pricing, you've probably seen prices that were incredible, and then you've probably seen them take a giant nosedive down to the bottom. We've started to see that somewhat in Texas. We at least are insulated with some of the small batch craft growers because of the product that is out here on the shelf being not as developed or maybe it's old. So when you put your fresh small batch craft product next to that, it's an easy sell to get $10, $20 more out of a consumer for
Right.
that. So we've finally been able to break into the shelf space and to the consumer of like you need to spend a little more money to get a premium product from a local grower. And I think we're seeing things kind of level out from the race to the bottom and then the whole hey we need $3,800 for this. So as we sell like prepackaged and stuff and things get a little better, we're kind of leveling out. I don't know how long that will happen, but I'm hoping for the best here. We want to protect like small batch craft, not necessarily the price point per se, but we do want to protect our margins as business people. But like, what have you seen in the market as a whole? Because you go all over the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, here's the one thing: AAA flour is always going to demand that highest price tag. So if you are always doing something top tier AAA, you would assume that it's always going to sell, right? The stuff of it seems like the stuff of legend right now. The prices we were getting for outdoor, when we
Hmm.
were hitting that 4K mark, and then it held a long time at like 3,200. That's unheard of, and it
Yeah.
didn't have to be AAA flour. It was just California grown,
Right.
and which is something in itself.
Yeah.
Great marketability. We have incredible climate up there, and the moisture ratio up there, it works really good, and that those levels held. The worst that would happen when we get these dips, it dip from 32 to 28. Those were
Hmm.
acceptable, especially when you're selling packs. But what's happened now, like since the legalization, and I think the biggest thing that happened on that with, Prop 215 in 1996 was a great thing that allowed us all to be in this medicinal
Right.
realm. But then with the full legalization in 2018, it took a long time for growers to really accept that. because we were worried about corporate
Yeah.
cannabis that is happening everywhere. And so they had a 1 acre cap on
Hmm.
it. And so we're like, okay, we can get behind that. Mom and pop places can still sustain, still turn out this weed and compete with the big boys. In the 11th hour, they yanked that 1 acre cap, and the story didn't get out, and
Yeah.
we voted it, and that was it. So that was the demise of the California market right there. And then the prices went half, quarter, and now we're near sub. I remember when the first pound of outdoor sour D was below $1,000,
Right.
and we thought we would never see the day. And then that's a good
Was
price.
there an aspect of people at the beginning kind of trying to all hold the line? Like, this is the bottom.
Yes.
This is like, don't go past this threshold, or like,
Yes,
fuck
there
you.
absolutely were, and it's funny. We one of my friends tried to actually like unionize,
Yeah.
right? Get this app. So we had an one side login for growers, one side for buyers. So when they come in for California, we'd know what they were
Right.
looking for, and so we'd put it on the app, and we'd just like, okay, these guys want this. Like we're holding at X amount for this, and don't let him lowball you.
Right.
This is how much money he has. He's coming in there, guys. Let's hold the line. Absolutely, we tried to do that, unionize, but then kind of people got in, some newer, younger growers, and they're
Hmm.
just like, take it. I need to be done with this.
Yes.
And we're like, God damn it. Like, don't do that. I mean, it's pretty funny how to unionize, but the first people that were really good at unionizing, and it was a pretty efficient. Look at the pirates. Like that's what
Yeah.
the pirates do. They're getting paid $1 to ride on the Royal Navy ships and risking their life. And sometimes they weren't even getting paid when they came back, but they come back, they're pirates. Guess what pirates are? You elect your captain,
Yeah.
and if you like him, he's in there. If you don't like him, walk the plank. But all the crew decided that, and that's how you did it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that whole cyclical nature of society and civilization is coming back. So we
Yeah.
did try to unionize, we did try to hold it, but then some people are desperate. And that's post
Yeah.
2018, people got desperate and people just said, I'm selling, getting out of here. And then they've sold and they've moved out so to other states. So it's nice to see states hold it. It would be nice to have just an equal line federally
Yeah.
on that, but that's never going to happen.
Well, we're kind of there. I think there's people that are the folks that really race to the bottom for price are the ones that are middlemaning. People that are growing and stuff, they understand like I have cogs. Like I have to get this much money out of this.
Mm,
I can't let it go. But I also think it's shifting to where people understand, if quality didn't sell, there wouldn't be Louis Vuitton, Ferrari, like cuz you can get that or you can get the Kia.
yeah.
Like it all depends on a few factors. And so I feel like us holding out for that, especially some of our boutique growers, we're kind of trying to do the same thing of like just present it as though this is worth what we say because it's local, it's fresh, it's like not who knows, not tainted, who knows where it's come from,
Yeah.
right? Like we have full traceability on this. So we kind of put those unique selling points behind it, but we are we're competing against people who are selling grams for 50 cents, and it's like,
Oh my gosh.
how do you even do that? Well, it's got to be old. It's got to come from somewhere else. It's, got to have a fake COA attached to it or whatever. So what we're trying to do is just kind of hold the line. I mean, similar to some of what the bigger brands have done is like, if it's under this name or this brand, it's more expensive. We're going to be okay with that.
Hmm.
We're going to hold on to that as long as we possibly can. Because to me, the race to the bottom, I've seen it mess up markets, ruin markets. It lets people like corporate cannabis in, and it gives other people leverage in a space where that's not the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, that you're always going to be able to sell and market the extreme parameters of that, the high end and the low end up
Yeah,
there. And a lot of people follow in the middle. We all shoot for AAA. We're all trying to
yeah,
be on that top, and that's kind of nice. If people do hold their standards and are able to do that, and if they don't meet their margins sometimes, that's okay. Like
yeah,
take that hit. Don't all of a sudden stress and fire sale everything and come to
yeah,
the bottom and do that market. Like everybody should have a simple understanding of market economy and supply and demand and how that works. And unfortunately, people don't look at the bigger picture. They can't see in front
yeah.
of their face, and they do that. That's why it's amazing what you're doing, kind of trying to unite, get that message out there.
We got to hold out. Not a lot of people do
Yeah,
this, so we're already the hot commodity.
yeah,
Nonetheless, if it's AAA,
hmm
like the average flower out there is not quality exotic flower that you can't get your hands on. So when you come to the table like that, and what I try to remind people too is don't devalue something. Like don't it once you come down $100, $500, $1,000, that's your floor starts getting lower. You're never going to get back up there,
Right.
you know? So you can't just say, oh, this next run's going to be 3,500 again. They're like,
Hmm.
no, it's not. They're
Yep.
not paying that. I just paid 1,000. So you can't devalue your product. I try to tell that in the grower space and the edible space. Like, you know, there's always going to be people that are cheaper. There's always people that are getting stuff from China or whatever. We're not that, and that's why we are more expensive. And so
Hmm.
if you care about your consumer and your store and your legacy, your brand as a retailer, then you'll buy our stuff or the higher quality and pay the price rather than the race to the bottom. And so that's what we're trying to keep up here. And I think we've done a really good job of it. We kind of have a standard, a threshold, you know, it's kind of an unspoken thing. Mainly what helps is I know for a fact other growers across Texas cannot go low, like cannot go to a certain point
What
where the
what are
because
those
they won't
numbers
make
right
money.
now that you're having in Texas?
I mean, from what I know from my guys, anywhere from like 2,500 to 3,200 a pound, and sometimes and the reason we're getting that too is it's all usually pre-packed, so it's usually broken down.
Hmm.
So I'm selling you a bunch of eighths for $3,500,
Right.
which is helping us
I'll
actually.
sell you this pound, but it's retail,
But
just
it's
so you know.
retail. Yeah, no, no, and it
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but we're doing it because
Hmm.
our shops don't want all that extra work. A lot of deli style is an absolute headache, and it's a compliance nightmare, especially with the new rules that are coming up. So most people just want to sell the brand that has the credibility or the local name in their store. And so we were just like, we'll just pre-pack it, we'll do pre-rolls and everything, and you guys just take it. We'll
I
take
can't.
it for
I
fucking
can't.
retail.
I can't imagine buying a pound that's already broken down in eighths package. It's like I took the work out of there for you, man.
That's
Here's
what people want the most. Seriously. That's why this
that
industry,
was,
like people can't understand it, especially talking to vendors out in the outside, because I'm like, there's just so much opportunity here, and we are trying to control what our consumers know and what they think. You know, all this extra product coming in from other places sets a bad expectation. So if we can just get our name out there and get our brand out there in the eighths and the quarters and the pre-pack and the pre-rolls, that's flying off the shelf. I mean, there's not a place in Austin where I can't look in a trash can around the UT campus and see our Jeremy Green's pre-roll tubes. I mean, it's crazy.
that's amazing. Imagine like taking that marketability on the Bammer weed or the Mexi weed that we used to have in the 90s coming from California. It used to come in
Yeah.
a shoebox with not the Ziploc bags, the sandwich baggy bags that
Yes.
was wrapped up. I can't imagine like buying a pound in a shoebox and then you got the marketing. You're like, I'm not selling AAA, bro. No, this is it. This is your pound already broken down. I took
Here's
hours of labor off
and
that.
here's another factor that people are not understanding in this market is the reason why I can take a pound and put it in eighths is because I know for sure a retail partner will buy that at wholesale from me, prepackaged, and I'll still get my number that I want. But I also know that if he doesn't, I can sell it online to all 50 states using the United States Postal Service because it is a federally legal product and it comes with all the paperwork.
Yeah.
So I'm not limited to these boundaries of this great state. Even if I was, it would be no sweat. There's 30 plus million people here at any given moment. It's a huge market, but we also opened ourselves up to the nationwide market and not having to be held back by a license, a regulation, like something from state to state. So we have no problem selling it. And that's why I try to educate the farmers and the growers too of like, you don't have to race to the bottom because if the corner store doesn't want it and the smoke shop doesn't want it and the dispensary doesn't want it, somebody online wants
You
it.
have
So
a
if you put
state
it
in
out
mind that
there,
will. Yeah.
yeah, dude, put the link to your shop and your story and let it rip. Tell everybody there's a fresh drop. It works. It works like a charm and it's completely legal. And so that's another thing I think helps us manage our pricing and our price points is because, you know, I'm not being held hostage by the guy that has the lowball offer. Like I'm
Hmm.
like, yo, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, like you can go take that lowball offer down the road because if I don't want to sell to you, I know I can put it in my group chat or my email marketing group or anything and say, hey, fresh drop, here it goes, and
Yeah.
it'll be gone. It'll
And,
be gone tomorrow.
and that's that difference between kind of like the legacy grower and this new generation that's coming up is everything, we kind of have a stranglehold, like a control in California.
Yeah.
So much of the weed came out of California. Most of it did. And you had that added to the value of the weed that was coming out of California.
Do you remember back when wine was really popular, right? So there's always this wine.
Did it ever go out of style?
Right. I think alcohol's going out of style in general, but
It
anyway,
is.
because a lot of wineries from California call me and ask me what the hell I'm doing in hemp to recuperate their legacy. Anyway, wine was all dominated in Europe. It was Italian wines, French
Hmm.
wines. You know, that's all you heard about. And then California came on the scene. And there was that one wine festival when California showed up and they put in a bunch of wine that was from Napa and they won the whole fucking thing.
Chateau Montelena.
Probably.
What was that?
I'm not
Yeah.
as well versed in this as some are, but this overall,
Mhm. That
the
was the
theory
story.
was the underdog came in and fucked up the whole thing. And that's kind of what I am putting on the back of all my Texas growers is like, you know, so nothing is permanent, right?
Right.
There's the king of the hill is not going to last forever, and so it's going to turn. And who's going to be next? Well, it's open season, and again, if we can kick this off, be federally legal, be nationwide, and have obviously a lower cost of doing business from being on Texas soil, paying for Texas-based labor, paying Texas-based living wages, paying Texas licensing fees and regulation, we're going to be off to the races. We might be even decades ahead of some of these places that are out there getting started right now or
Right.
have been going.
Yeah.
And that's my thing about Texas is that, I'm not knocking anyone. I'm just saying there's a new opportunity on the horizon, and the people who capitalized on that in the 90s is the same exact thing that's
Hmm.
presenting itself here. And
Yeah.
and that's what I'm trying to really portray to the audience, to vendors, to prospective operators, is that this regardless of what the headline is today, this is one of the largest opportunities in 2026 and beyond. And the reason why I know that's true is because they try to take it from me every fucking second. And if it was worth nothing, they wouldn't do that.
Right. Yeah, I haven't delved too much into Texas, but what I've heard, it's nice. You do have that hybrid modality of growing here. You can do indoor greenhouse
Yep.
and indoor, and it's really nice when you can have an outdoor situation where you're not having to pay top dollar for all your inputs on that. Electric bills. Not a lot of people are going solar when they're
There's
doing
no
that,
green
and
tax here.
no,
There's no green tax here. I'm
it's
an agriculture company. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
about that. I don't know
that's
cannabis. Sorry.
that goes a long way. It's uh, when I was going outdoor in Hawaii, it was the most surreal, ideal situation ever. So first of all, Hawaii is on a 12-12 light cycle
Yeah,
all the time.
all the time.
So start your beans, your clones, get them in veg, and then when you move them outside, I would move plants out in January. 2 months later, they would harvest. I'd move
Wow.
them out in November. They would harvest. Anytime I move them out, 2 months later, they were harvesting. One year, I came back to the mainland for a summer. I moved out my plants, and I would put like fish heads. I go spearfishing a lot. Cut off the fish heads, put them in. Those are richer. They're like 10% nitrogen.
Yeah,
I
hell
think
yeah.
it's like 6% phosphorus. So the fish heads are in there. And then I had this little manure pile.
This is
That
Hawaiian as fuck right here, bro.
yeah, it's super, super volcanic, rich soil
Hmm.
on there. And then I'd have this manure from chicken manure, and that had to steep for like 6 months, 9 months. You really had to like
Yum.
get that. That was hot. Oh, and it was right, but chickens are everywhere. Uh, and so I get the manure. I would plant the fish heads, dig a hole, and I would kind of like guerrilla grow. I got my medical license in Hawaii, but the first couple outdoors, you put them outside, and the halikoa would show up red, like it's a it kind of it's a native plant in Hawaii, and it would show up red on the when the helicopters would go over on their VR,
Right.
and so would cannabis, and so you'd always plant like a cannabis next to a halikoa there, and no joke. Plant the fish heads, put in the chicken poop, put in the plant. 2 months later, I would come back and I'd be like, "Hello, ladies, ready for harvest." It was amazing what would happen out there. It's a grower's paradise in there. Hawaii is so nice, and then the aquaponics scene out there is really big.
For sure. Limited space, probably too, right?
Yeah, but it's a self-circulating
Hmm.
thing. When we're talking about water shortage, aquaponics is an amazing thing.
Absolutely.
Really good friend early, like 20 years ago, started aquaponics with the University of Hawaii, and he started with the tilapia, and so it's a closed system. So you
Yeah.
have a
And
fixed
then
finite amount of
fucking eat the
water.
tilapia if you get crazy desperate.
Absolutely. No, that was part of the system. That was so start with small tilapia and closed system that would water hydroponically
Yeah.
all your trays on there, and then tilapia get too big, you move those out, and you have another tank of tilapia moving in. He actually got a job working for the University of Hawaii to implement at grade schools around
Yeah.
through there because it's
That's
so warm
crazy.
on there. And
That is
and
exact. That's so synonymous with Jeremy's journey too. Was like when we started doing the farm stuff, we were basically building our facility off of extra parts that he had from these hydro or aquaponic jobs that he was building. So he
yeah,
was just going in the community or high schools and building these systems. And
amazing.
then all of the stuff that
Yeah,
we were not needing for those projects, he was putting into our grower. We were retrofitting it in. And even to this day, like he has an aquaponics system outside the house with the
that's
fish and
perfect.
everything. Like
Yeah, first of all, I love the education. Teach kids where food comes from.
absolutely.
It's not a grocery store in the refrigerated section on that. But also, if you've been a grower for a few decades, anybody could open their own hydro shop secondhand.
Yep.
I have storage for my storage of hydro things that I just can't get rid of. Of course I'm going to need that 6-inch vent fan. Did that can fan really, is that filter 4 months old? Can it
Yeah.
still clean? And all the amount of pumps that I have enough to open a hydro store, but that's also enough for any one-off grow that I have. Like, people kind of come to me and they want to get into growing. I was like, well, first of all, if you haven't already paid for all your equipment when the price of weed
Literally.
sustained that and paid for it after your first couple of harvests, like, don't get into it. Like, go secondhand, find
Or
this.
go try for free at growworld.com.
But nice.
But so seriously, before we get into like the tech talk, we talk organic tech. What do you? I mean, so far you said it's been red carpet. We haven't necessarily gone into any grows or into the community, but what do you think of the Texas environment and the Texas hemp culture? I mean, what's your first impression?
Well, everything's bigger in Texas.
Damn
Everything's
right.
bigger in Texas, and so far that's kind of proved that. It's looking at the map and seeing just driving time, how far we're gonna go. we're
Well,
driving in on East Coast, man. We're driving across 4 states before we're even
no, yeah,
across
we're
the
gonna
one state
saddle up
here.
and drive 5.5 long hours
Yeah,
across this great state. But it's worth it.
yeah,
You see so much of this place. You see all of our culture, all of our heritage, all the agriculture, all the industry that's here is just all up and down this place. It's
yeah.
gonna be amazing. The
I've driven.
geographical differences, it's crazy.
It is nuts. I've driven through Texas a couple times, the northern, the Panhandle, the southern. This is my first time to Austin, which great culture. I love the
Yeah.
nightlife, the barbecue. Uh,
And we're just
still,
getting started, bro. You got a couple more
no,
days in the saddle
yeah,
here.
yeah, it's impressed. But the smells so far, yeah, I'm impressed.
All right, so what's talk Organitech? What's the unique selling points? Why should people, especially in the Texas market or hemp markets across the US, be looking at Organitech as a partner or a solution?
Yeah, as much as I want to pitch an easy SOP, follow this, you will hit all your cogs. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But also, you're not going to start out with a novice grower who's looking up how many milliliters are in a tablespoon. Like, you already assume they have a grow or two under their
Yeah.
belt before they're taking these SOPs. But Organitech, I guess, kind of started in that transition when California was going legal, and I could see the writing on the walls that the money was no longer going to be in cultivation and selling. Like, if you didn't get that writing on the wall, you didn't get that memo, those are unfortunately the people that went broke on that, and they rode it all the way to the bus. It's like the people
Of
holding
course.
holding onto the stocks when it's going down. They're like, but I
When am I
need,
jump?
I don't want to do this, and unfortunately they didn't. So we pivoted on that, and we came up with this microbial inoculant, and which was Amplify, and it was amazing. So what that would do is help mitigate any impurities, any imbalances in your soil. If you're
Hmm.
over high on nitrogen, to avoid that toxicity, add the microbes, help that digest, and then it'll aid in the uptake of that. So we started in the microbes, went on the natural side like that, and now with the indoor grows, and so much of it is, I want to keep everything sterile, everything. Like, I have a science background. I love the lab technique.
Yeah.
I want a proven, repeatable method. That's what you want, and that's what we've done with the Organitech line. Is it's highly soluble, stays in suspension, and it's not going to clog lines. Everything is automation, and that's what everything's geared toward. I
Yes.
love I love the idea of hand watering into a grow, especially when I'm trying to teach growing to people. I love the hands-on approach. Like,
Yeah.
pick up that pot. Does it need water? Well,
Feel
pick up
it.
a pot that's wet,
Yeah.
pick up a pot that's empty, and start feeling that. And then, hand water, you can alleviate that. But now with dosatrons, everything is super integrated, but one small problem, if you're not constantly on it monitoring those levels, that's it. So starting with clean inputs, so food and farmer grade
Hmm.
inputs is how you do it. You are what you eat, you are what you smoke.
Yep.
So start with these clean inputs that aren't going to clog lines, that aren't going to have a bunch of residue. Do that. Also, don't just flood with inputs. Like, I know it needs
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of nitrogen, and like, don't give it more than it needs to. If we're working on cutting corners and reducing bottom line costs, like, put in high grade inputs and don't put a lot of it in.
Yeah.
Ours, when we're using 12, 14 mils per gallon for an input, other companies are using 20, 25 mils when they're coming through flour. There's a redundancy. It's fluff.
Hmm.
It's McDonald's. Don't
Yeah.
don't don't put that in your go. So yeah, we like to pitch just using clean inputs on that, and with an SOP that is verifiable and repeatable. And that's our pitch right there.
Well, it's a perfect fit for Texas. We have a ton of indoor outdoor. A lot of
Mhm.
people do mixed light or do complete runs of one or the other. So that's a really good fit for this market, 100%. What else? Where did this evolve into more like Success and Yeti
Yeah,
and all that?
yeah.
Like,
It's so first of all, I got to give a shout out to our CEO and
absolutely, you do.
my wife, Lady Funk. She is amazing, and she's the science behind it. She's been in the hydro world for a couple decades now. She brought a plasma light to market, rocket
Yep.
plasma, and has always been on the science side, geared towards that. So she's been in it since early 2010, 2012 when she was bringing that
We love our
to light
nerds,
with.
bro.
Yeah,
Gotta have the nerds in here.
she we do. They keep the world
They
going
keep it
around.
going.
Yeah. And so when that science came around and we had a big farm outdoor and like I said, we're reading the writing on the wall and we started to transition into nutrients on that. We were already making them, but we transitioned into the nutrients on that and started for the green rush, being the pickaxes and the Levi's for everybody transitioning into that.
Yep.
I knew the cultivation wasn't going to be in there. So we got into the science and we started acquiring formulas and looking into who was already doing it. There weren't a lot of people doing it.
Right.
It was GH back in the day having
Mm-hmm.
that, and they started from a liquid nutrient and then kind of um, kind of went to the science and tried to convert it to a powder. So they were doing reverse engineering to get
Right.
to the powder, whereas we've started, with a powder and then we've gone to the
The
liquid
liquid.
and trying to get on that kind of doing that way. And yeah, when we transitioned into that there was a pinnacle moment when it happened, and I had I think it was like a 22 lighter at the time, and I had the space, and the money was coming down, going slowly and slowly. And Tanya one day went in there, and she's all right. She goes, I need it. Get this out of here. And I was like, what's going on? She goes, we're taking over production. She goes, these goddamn packagers. Like she fired like two packagers in a week. They were putting left hand pour on a right hand bottle. Couldn't get shit straight. And we're like, you guys, like, this is your business, packaging, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you guys are supposed to do this for a living. You can't do that. And so we weren't in charge of our QC anymore, and we didn't like, inferior, like, just visually product going out there. So in 1 week, Tanya broke down my grow, and she was like, I'm going to make more money in this room than you are right now. And that was challenge accepted. So she
Yes,
flipped it.
ma'am.
She flipped it. We got a forklift, pallet jacks, tanks, mixing everything. And in 1 week, we turned that place around and started manufacturing. And then since then, we've bought the Organitech ranch, and it's expanded. And I went from hiring my stoner friends to, real employees who know what they're doing. Nothing against my stoner friends, but yeah, I like having that relationship of people who are focused on what they're doing
For sure.
and getting them. And now we are just a well-oiled machine. It's nice to. That's another thing why we're functioning too. We don't have this huge high overhead. We're not in
Yeah.
this 50,000 square foot commercial building paying somebody else for that. We own the buildings, we own everything, and we started small and slowly expanded. We didn't have these delusions of grandeur where we're going to be the biggest
Yeah.
company on the market on that. And so while we were running Organitech and we have this commercial line, Flower Republic, which is generally our powder form, so we can ship to these commercial grows and they can mix it themselves. We were manufacturing. Tanya picked up the IP and started manufacturing Success Nutrients, which started a decade ago now in
Mm-hmm.
2016 in Colorado. And she started manufacturing their nutrients. We started doing that at the ranch. And then we acquired the label, the whole brand in 2021, 2022, January, I think. And so then now we own the brand and do that. And we've kind of really brought back the customer service
Yeah.
to Success because they were great idea, great philosophy. It was the 3 pounds of light. And that was the SOP that they were selling. We would come into commercial grows and we would help people at
Mm-hmm.
that point. 10 years ago, 3 pounds of light was a really good cog for people to hit on that. So we advertised that. And then from the original owner, changed hands into kind of a more corporate holding, and they kind of lost their customer service base
Mm-hmm.
and
Corporate will do
kind of
that.
hired out. It's amazing. Same old story. So we've brought that back now. So when you call the back of the bottle, you're calling me for the grower help. Like,
Right.
I'm happy to help on that and help you implement, you turning your AAA flowers into that. So we
Yeah.
acquired Success Nutrients that way, and so now we have two lines for people that really want kind of like more hands-on, more control of the variables. And then I guess lastly, we acquired the IP for Mammoth Can Control,
Yeah.
which is the gold standard
Hmm.
for pest control, miticide,
Absolutely.
fungicide on that. And we have since rebranded that Yeti Control. But that's great because it has a broader application. I can stand behind that. It's natural fungicide. A lot of people who, pests are going to creep in. I don't care how
Yeah.
tight you keep your grow, you're going to have that. And
Yep.
so something that leaves no residue, and that's the biggest thing with these grows. Like put in all that work, 3 months into it, and then you're testing hot because you're using, you know, back in the day, God, this Eagle 20,
Yeah.
people would
Holy
actually
shit.
use the Eagle 20 thinking, oh, it's just a clone right now. It's going to grow out. No, that's systemic. That's in there, in the
Hmm.
plant, growing out. You cannot use that and smoke it. Shit, you can't even get on your hands. Anything that says you have to wear a full biohazard suit with gloves and a mask and a respirator, guess what, man? Don't smoke it.
Don't smoke it.
don't, don't smoke that Eagle 20. So yeah, I mean, it's great. I love the products we have. It seems, yeah, Tiny goes out and kind of buys these distressed assets like some people buy shoes, and she goes on that, but she sees the bottom line, and we see the value in it, and then it's great to stand behind these companies that we're doing. It's not like we're going out acquiring them left and right, but there's a couple on there. We're like, we can really maintain this. Like, this is something we believe in. We want to do this, and we want to replicate it and get it out there.
You're really smart for doing this, or maybe Tanya's really smart for doing
She
this.
is really smart on it.
Yeah. No, but you're really smart for doing this because, like what you said, with the customer service aspect, the partner aspect, a lot of guys I know, they go for the big name brands, huge corporate brands, huge large names. All of them, I'm sure, are great. But sometimes there's a disconnect, and sometimes those places don't always pay attention to us just because we're a 2,000 square foot hemp grow. It
Yeah,
may not be something that's on their radar. But what I try to remind folks is that this 2,000 square foot hemp grow, if the right partners get behind it, can be 20,000 square foot hemp grow. And that's the problem that I'm trying to solve with Nick and Grow World and the Grow Tours here with the Hemp Highway is exposure for both sides, the vendors to the growers and the growers to the vendors. And so I think you're going to get a really good kick out of this whole entire show and process because what we're looking for is what you guys are offering. Someone who has 30 years advanced experience and expertise ahead of us that we need to beat the learning curve and be guided in the right way. But also, when I pick up the phone and call, you're there. You show up, you
right.
answer the phone, you give me the guidance and the feedback, and then you're invested in my success too. Not just I'm not just a
Very
number on your spreadsheet that needs to reorder in the next 60 days. Like we definitely at this point, there's a crux. We need partners. There's a lot that we don't know for designing facilities to running nutrients to automation to everything. And we can beat that with partners like yourself. And that's something that I don't think California market or other markets necessarily have had that lockstep hand holding from incubation to proven concept at 20,000 square feet. That's what I want to create here. And I
yeah,
think that you
that's
guys fit this mold for this market almost perfectly.
that's great. I love hearing that, and that makes me super excited on that because
So what are you looking to get out of it? Maybe people that are watching this, a lot of folks watch my stuff that are growers from hobbyists to commercial facilities. What do you guys want to do long term for Texas? What do you want to do and come in here and who are the types of growers you want to work with?
all the way from the six plant hobby grower in the tent all the way to large scale operators. That is it. And there's no, I'm not going to favor one than the other because that bottom line is customer service. Call it that Midwest nice that I have in me, but I don't want my reputation going around there
Right.
and people feel that I left them hanging. Like
Totally.
that's the worst feeling on that because then you turn a lover into a hater real quick. And that's going to generate energy, and I don't want that. So I
Yeah, it's
don't.
the old hey, your nutrients were great, but you really pissed me off.
So fuck those guys. That's why I'd be like, fuck Joe Boo. Yeah, it's we try and we that customer service line because also for so long I had to hide what I did.
Hmm.
I would spend 10 hours in my grow defoiling, cloning, getting my next cycle going and all that. And people would call, hey, what's up? What have you been doing all day? And nothing. None. What are you doing? And it's so nice to be able to share that. And if there's one thing I love talking about, it's growing.
Yeah.
And when people call and they say, "Hey, I have this problem," uh, I love talking them through it and troubleshooting because the
Yeah.
fact that I'm getting paid to talk growing, to grow, our R&D garden still every day, like honing the craft. And now we have our nutrients specifically geared feeding chart towards CBD. The misnomer, very common now, is just cut your nutrient feeding in half. and your plant won't be as potent. No, man, you're going to stress out your plant. They still need that
Yep.
phosphorus and potassium boom, and and you need the percentages. It's ratios right now. And so following that ratios for CBD so they don't test hot. Don't stress out your plant because then it's going to increase the
Yep.
THC resin on that, and
We,
that's not going to work out.
that's amazing you say that too, because we always remind people that hemp or cannabis is still one of those places where if you're a good farmer or you're a good grower, you can charge more. And it doesn't
Yep.
matter if it's THC plants, CBD plants, like plants with a high yield for processing go for a higher dollar than the ones that don't, than biomass out of some field in the tens of thousands of acres.
Yeah.
It's still one of those playing fields where, like, yeah, if you take your craft seriously and you are a better farmer or grower, then your product is worth more. It's not like a commodity price where it's like, this is it. Once you grow cotton, like, this is the price for cotton this year. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're not
Who's dictating that? I
right.
hate to see it. I hate to read it in a report or hear it on the news. Who's dictating the price of my product? I dictate the price of my product.
Exactly.
Yeah, what a concept to be able to like bring that back in your own hands. And that's when the transition to CBD flower, obviously with the whole federal market, like you were saying, it opens up
Whole world.
the whole world to the market instead of your state, instead of your neighborhood, doing that. And the first time I grew CBD, I took it with the same care, the same love as I do any
Hmm.
THC cannabis plant, and I don't know any different, and I don't want to like give it like kind of step kid effort into that. I just can't do that. I still hate killing plants, so we've taken.
Man, we've grown a white CBG strain and smoked it and got stoned. Like the quality of your cannabinoids and the entourage of everything, the terpene levels that you have in those plants, that all also helps with the effect, not just THC percentages.
It's amazing. No, for
It's
like 5-10 minutes when you do smoke CBD, and I have some of the heaviest heads come in and try my CBD plant, which is first of all, it's some of the sexiest weed. Sometimes you get in that, they're like, I want to smoke that. I'm like, just FYI, it's CBD, and maybe it's the psychosomatic effect of it, but that still gets them high,
yeah,
and the taste and the flavor of that is incredible.
absolutely.
And that terpene profile that you can really increase, you can increase the terpenes without increasing the THC on that. And that's another benefit of the high in grade inputs. High pharma food grade inputs in that is going to increase the terpene profile. Um, and you got to trust your labs when you're coming out on that. A lot of these labs, you're
The
like,
lab
you,
game, that's
you
a whole another
oh,
topic.
we're not don't have enough time in the studio for that right now. But yeah, increasing that terpene profile and just I
Yeah.
think now as cannabis is coming more on the forefront and CBD, people need to know, like cannabis, like alcohol, when you're coming in and you're 21 and you're trying booze, 18, let's be real, but 16, 13, you're not going for Everclear. You're like not coming to a liquor store.
Yeah.
You're like, I'd like the bottle of your highest
Hardest.
potent
Yeah.
booze to knock me out.
Yeah.
No, like learn what you want. Like, people need to be more objective, try different things. So many people kind of as you get older, they're like, nah, I can't handle that anymore. It's too stony for me. It's like, well, try a lower
Dude, there's
concentration.
some cannabis out there that will put you into a fucking hole
And
if you're not ready for it.
yeah,
I have people that even mix like THC flower and CBD flower.
there you
That's what
go.
they'll mix.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. I don't think people know enough there, but we already in Texas started selling like the CBD flower, the CBD pre-rolls, and like people were buying them, enjoying them and coming back for more. They didn't necessarily know the wiser that it was this diet weed or
Yeah.
CBD or
I
whatever.
love
They
I
just
love the
had
term
this
diet weed for it. It works out so good. That's how you kind of sell people when that's
yeah.
too strong. Have you tried diet?
But
Now it's sarsaparilla.
it showed, you can get some bullshit imported Hawaiian haze CBD flower and shove it in a bunch of pre-rolls, or you can grow it craft with a very high yield, a very high quality, good flavor profile, and people will enjoy it. They won't necessarily want to
Mm.
say like, "Where's the test? Where's the percentage?" Like, I think that's another thing that Texas has is our consumers are still looking for us to guide them. It's not like the consumers are coming in saying like,
Mm.
if you don't have this brand from this place at this strength, I'm not buying it. It's like people are like,
Yeah.
hey, I tried this last time. What else do you have? It's still new, you
They
know?
yeah, the warning labels on those, I think the dosing is really important. Like anytime I see a Rice Krispie treat, I'm eating it. Like
All of it.
don't tell me to have a one goddamn bite off this Rice Krispie treat or one bite off a cookie. I'm the cookie monster.
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat this whole thing. And the difference between consuming marijuana and cannabis and hemp and smoking it are
Mm-hmm.
night and day. Like
Wild.
I would say consuming some high concentration edibles is more akin to a mushroom trip than it is smoking
Have to
because
agree.
yeah. And sometimes you'll get into like a 4, 6 hour like trip. You're like, here we go. And you can't retract that back other than vomiting. It's and even then now you're like, yeah, now I'm puking and I'm on this trip. Yeah, it's horrible. So that's funny. And when people are learning and trying it for the first time, usually they're like, oh, I'll ease into it. I'll just eat a
Yeah.
little bit. And it's like, well, careful because you eat too much. So yeah, what needs to happen with dosaging? Sugar is still really cheap and flour, like, please just expand the dose so I can eat
Yeah.
the whole goddamn cookie because I want to. I'm not just gonna, and then when I get the munchies, like, I'm gonna go for another
For another
bite.
bite.
And unfortunately, I don't have any regular chocolate chip cookies, so I'm gonna finish this chocolate chip cookie. God damn it. So yeah, I think everybody's has an experience like that where it was just like, and then now they're talked off it, so they're just trying to like ease into the cannabis market,
Now
and then
you're on
they
the
eat old
deep end.
cookie, and they're like, never again.
Never again.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's not how it should be. It wasn't how it was introduced to me, that's for sure. Definitely like gradually. But I'm glad you brought up the CBD thing. I think a lot of times, there's just there's noise, there's shit talk, there's all the things that happen in the game of telephone, but like everything out here, especially what you'll see over this week, these are tried and true operators. These are solid generational Texans, generational farmers, agriculture farmers and people out here and, from one side or the other, whether it's THC, CBD, hemp for fiber, hemp for gummies, hemp for this, hemp for that, we're here to grow it, harvest it, sell it, and make money and make the most out of it. And if that means we need to partner with folks like yourself and Organitech and some others that Grow World will introduce to us, that's what we want to do. And I'm sure you're going to find that that is the theme here from the people that we meet over the course of hopefully longer than just this tour. Hopefully you keep coming back to Texas to meet more people over the years, but that's kind of the common theme is that everybody is just looking for the way forward and we're not stuck on these old recreational or medical markets and the way that things have to be or what name we have to put on the package or what THC percentage we have to do or whatever. Texas has its own little market here and it's insulated from a lot of that. And
It
we want to keep
yeah,
capitalizing on all that.
I see that. It doesn't need to be a little market. It's not going to be a little market. And what shouldn't happen, there should not be a disconnect from big scale ag and cannabis. For some reason, the market's always been, well, cannabis has been
Separate. Yeah,
behind the
no.
scenes, separate, high profit margins versus big ag. We're doing everything large scale to this. And then like seeing the emergence with these, planters, that you put on the back of the tractor and that are popping out. Like, why is it taking so long to all of a sudden, hey, you can use this for cannabis clones and not just corn? I come from the land of corn and cows too. And I
Yep.
look at my grandfather's stuff, and I was always like, wow, you could go large scale, but it's always the regulation and flyovers, and how are you really just gonna get by putting this in there?
Chains are off down here.
That's
That's what I
that's
keep
what's
trying to
amazing.
tell
So yeah,
people.
that correlation coming from large large scale ag to cannabis, that line is slowly mending, but you have two people with cement feet on both sides
Yep.
of of the wall, right?
Hmm.
And that's kind of how it is. So we need to take down the wall and look, and we realize we can work together, and we have these inputs that you're doing that. Yes, the inputs are going to be more than you're paying for just your bag nitrogen and your bag that, because it is a specific ratio, a specific gearing that we have towards cannabis and
Yep.
CBD. So no. And go in with people need to go in with realistic expectations of what your profit margin is going to be.
It's still agriculture at the end of the day. That's what I
Yeah,
tell people.
yeah,
People are always looking at like, let me get a job at the grow. I'm like, dude, razor thin margin, bro. Like,
yeah.
I like we have this system that works. It's still agriculture at the end of the day. But we have seen, and you're gonna get to meet some of these folks. But we've seen, the sons in their 20s take over dad's legacy of farming
I love that.
and introduce hemp into the repertoire and even I would say influence other generational farmer families and the sons that are inheriting grandpa's farm, dad's farm say, hey, look, if farming was really the way of the future, grandpa wouldn't have put a fucking oil well on there and he wouldn't have put a fucking windmill on there. The way forward is through diversification, go inside, don't have to deal with the struggles of the soil and the water depletion that your grandpa left you and
Right.
that the government left you. Move things inside, get a cash crop, a commodity that's actually worth its weight and isn't dictated by the buyer. It's dictated by you.
Yeah.
It's changing a lot of that mentality around farming, growing, indoor agriculture. That's what's going to save Texas's ass. Like you said,
Uh,
this is a great frontier because things are finally meeting where it's the agriculture experience meets the cannabis and hemp opportunity. And when those collide, we're going to be unstoppable. I mean, you've seen things on Grow World like Colombia and all these other markets that you wouldn't think of. You're like, holy shit, I didn't know. I thought Colombia was all,
Yeah.
you know, but here they are. They're pumping out flower. They're sending it all over the world. We want to capitalize on that. I know a lot of generational farming families want to capitalize on that, save their legacy, not have to go bankrupt, not have to call it quits, because where are you going to go? Who are you going to sell to?
Right.
All of that is a disaster, and we
I,
want to protect that here.
and it's unfortunate because farming shouldn't be, you can be proud of being a farmer and you can hold on to farming as your occupation, but you don't have to hold on to those outdated SOPs
Yeah,
and ways of farming,
that's what me and these boys say. We don't have to be okay with not making money in traditional agriculture. It's okay to not be okay with that. So let's try something new and let's get these floodgates open. Let's turn
Yeah.
on the money. Let's sell the agricultural product that people will spend top dollar for, and that right now is hemp for
Yeah.
whatever purpose or processing you want it for. It's that commodity
And
right
that's
now.
beautiful. And that's that new, just kind of philosophy of people coming out. They are legacy farmers. They have the farms. They own the
Yep.
land, and they want to get into the cannabis side. Why not merge both on that and bring this
Both
large
stand to
scale
benefit.
eggs?
That's what I say here
Yeah.
in Texas with us being in the Texas Department of Agriculture and that being our licenses. Like the amount of money, opportunity, grants, loans, all the different things that come from us being in the Department of Agriculture as a whole, not
Hmm.
our own separate Department of Cannabis or whatever. We see how not only our industry can contribute to the Department of Agriculture, but how the Department of Agriculture can help us.
Yeah.
And we love that. We don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to change agencies. I don't want to change hands. I don't want to get different licensing structures because this works and this is something new. And it seems like no other states have necessarily gotten keen to this and how we're like setting all this up on the inside. And so,
Well, if the Department of Ag would actually look at their red line and see how much they're paying out in subsidies to corn farmers, to soybean
yep,
farmers, paying them outright to subsidize a crop that is not turning a profit, guess what? Taking those subsidies,
yeah,
grant them to grow hemp, and guess what? You don't have to pay that out.
and it
I wish they,
remediates your soil.
yeah, I wish they could get their head out of the ass, look at the bottom line, see where
Yeah.
the money's going out, and then you can
Well,
redirect it.
we got a new agriculture commissioner coming up. There's a lot of changes in Texas for this election season, and I think that we're going to remain on top, on the forefront, and continue to push for this industry and for this plant,
Hmm.
for all of this. I mean, people see us behind the hemp thing, and they think we're pushing for gas station THCP gummies from China. It's not the case. If anything, I'm pushing hard because I want that gone. I want to make sure that that is not accessible to adults, children, anything, because there's not enough information behind that. Do I want to take cannabinoids away from people who have, positive experiences? Not necessarily, but I also know what's natural and what
Hmm.
is put through a chemical process. And I think the natural is always going to be better. It's always going to fit your body better. And that's the way that I want us to go. And that's why we push so hard for hemp here in Texas. It's literally one of the last final frontiers of cannabis, and it will, I think, when we get through what we're about to go through and we reveal all of our tricks that are left up our sleeve, I think more people will definitely start to take notice of what we're doing here.
It's great, and you need the labor force coming on
Yep.
that, and it's nice to show and kind of lead by example a profession that's all I've known is growing cannabis, and people that are young and get into it,
Yep.
with it starts with infatuation, and you outgrow that, but can I really sustain a profession in that? And absolutely you can, and we need labor to doing that. People need to grow up, and the plant has been so good to me, and that's why I love giving back to it and
Yep.
continuing to fawn and foster it and see everything that it can do. And with the evolution of feeding too is amazing, because the old traditional way, and pump it with nitrogen, and that the day you switch to flour, like that's not it, man. You need to keep that nitrogen going in 2 week, 3 week into flour, because that's
Yep.
when the plant hits that 2 week stretch, and it still needs that. So even the evolution, and we've adapted our feeding schedule and our chart with new, with AI, with technology, like what does the plant really need?
Yep.
And then that's why every time I'm in the R&D garden, I'm looking and testing about 4 different variables from my control, seeing like minute details, but also it's something. And then once you apply that to big scale ag corporate, like that's where you start hitting those cogs again, and that's where those inputs really matter, and those minute details
Yep.
really matter. I love geeking out on that.
Totally. We could geek out all day. Thanks for coming to Texas. Welcome.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
I haven't run into any of my tech exes yet.
That's good. That's good. But we will.
I heard
We're gonna go.
I was gonna see them in Texas,
Don't
man, but
worry. We got a
that is a
lot of
misnomer.
highway to drive. There's probably some out there. Don't worry. But thanks for coming to
That's
Texas.
incredible.
Seriously, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment below. We want to know all of your dying, burning questions for Jeff Funk, other experts out there around nutrients or your grow. Leave those in the comments for us. Subscribe here to Grow World and everyone else that's collabed on this episode. And I'll tell you what, this is the first stop of many on this Hemp Highway. We have a lot of miles to put underneath our feet, and we're going to get started. So let's go ahead and saddle up, boys, and get out here to the first stop on the fucking Grow Tour. Lubbock,
Amazing.
Texas.
Colton, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure,
Hey, you bet.
and this Texas experience is really shaping up nicely. I can't wait
You
to see
bet.
what else is in store.
It's an honor.
All right,
See you guys.
let's go.